Hi everyone, and welcome back to my third video on inferential questions. In my last video, we talked about direct inferential questions, and in this video, we're going to focus more on vocab inferential questions. Now, if you haven't watched my video on direct inferential questions, I will leave a link in the description box for you. So as I mentioned today, we are going to be talking about vocab inferential questions. Before we can do that, let's review the 3 steps that we will need to use when answering inferential questions. So the very first step is where we need to identify the keywords or ideas in the question. The second one is where we need to understand the context and gather relevant clues from the text itself. And the third step is where we have to craft our answer. And as I always say, the easiest way to do this is to rephrase the question. And of course, we have to use our clues from step 2 in order to get our final answer. If you'd like a more detailed explanation on these 3 steps, please watch my other video as well, where I break down and show you all the 3 different steps. Once again, I'll leave a link in the description box for you. So let's get into vocab inferential questions. There are 2 types of vocab inferential questions, and in this video, I'm going to focus on just one first. The first type of vocab inferential questions are where you are given a sentence, a statement, a description, or something else from the passage, and you have to speculate about the meaning of the sentence or the phrase. Now let's take a look at this example, and I'm going to read that for you. His thoughts drifted to the times when he used to do this with his father. Take her home, Joe, Papa Mikel would say, and they would sail between the rocky islands along the coast with Joe at the wheel. Sometimes the wind would roar and buffet as if charging at them. Trim your sails, Joe, Papa Mikel would yell from below, and sometimes he did, but often, reckless, he would disobey, and he'd feel the little vessel rising up in the water like a speedboat skimming over the waves. In this paragraph, we are told that the wind sometimes would roar and buffet as if charging at Joe and his father. What is the writer comparing the wind with? And this was taken from the 2018 O-level paper. Okay, so in order to answer this question, let's start with step 1. So remember, in step 1, we have to identify the keywords or the ideas in the question. And so this is the question here. The very first keyword that I would highlight is the word wind. Now, why? Because that's what the question is asking for, right? What is the writer comparing the wind with? So therefore, that's a very important keyword because we need to focus on the wind itself. Now, the second keywords that I would identify is would, roar, and buffet, because this is part of the text itself and we need to understand what this means. Now, roar in itself is a very loud, prolonged cry that is usually made by an animal, right? Humans don't really roar, and it's a specific type of animal. And the word buffet means to strike repeatedly and violently. So you can kind of picture that in your head already, where you have the wind seemingly striking repeatedly and violently at the ship. You can probably imagine how scary that could be. Now, the third keywords that I would identify are these words charging at. Charging at has that meaning of rushing towards something and is usually in an attack. So therefore, this is quite an important keyword. Now, the final keywords that I would highlight in this question are comparing the wind with. Why? Because we need to compare the wind with something. As I mentioned before, the very first keyword that I've highlighted is wind, right? So I need to decide what am I going to be comparing the wind with. So now that we have identified all the keywords, we are going on to step 2. So for step 2, we have to gather relevant clues. Take a look at this paragraph again. Now, the very first clue that I would highlight is the wind would roar. So this is very interesting because the wind actually cannot roar. But like I mentioned before, only certain types of animals actually roar, and I would say maybe lions and tigers, they roar. Now, the second clue is the word buffet. So buffet, as we mentioned before, means to strike very repeatedly and violently at something, right? So here, the wind is striking the boat very violently and repeatedly as well. The third clue is charging at them. As I said before, charging at them means to rush at something like in an attack. Now, the writer has said that the wind is charging at them. However, that's not possible because the wind cannot do that. It does not have legs. But animals can do that. The animals, when they are attacking something, they will charge at something, right? So it could be an elephant, it could be a tiger, it could be a lion, many other animals that charge at something else as well. Now that I've identified the relevant clues, let's go on to step 3. So in step 3, we have to craft our answer. So again, I have my question here. So first of all, before we can do that, we have to consolidate all the clues that we have gathered. So what do we know? We know that the wind cannot roar, but lions and tigers can. We know that the wind was striking the boat violently and repeatedly. Seems like it was attacking them actually. And that the wind cannot charge because it has no legs, but lions and tigers can. So therefore, I kind of have my answer already, right? And of course, I'm going to identify words from the question where I can rephrase. So I'm going to highlight this, the writer comparing the wind with. I'm going to use that in my final answer. Take a look at my final answer. The writer is comparing the wind to a wild animal like a tiger or a lion. Okay, so did you manage to get a similar answer to this? Like I always say, just keep practicing these 3 steps whenever you are answering inferential questions. I hope you enjoyed this video, so do keep a lookout for my next video where we are going to be talking about the other type of vocab inferential questions. As always, leave me a comment if you have any suggestions on any other question types that you would like me to go through as well. So that's all for this video. Thank you and bye! If you found this lesson useful, please give this video a like and also subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.